All right, guys, I'm going to divorce a girl slave who won't help with housework. Well, out of nowhere, Tom, my husband, walked into the room. With those words, he looked down at me as I sat in a chair below him, returning only an evil grin. I mean, this is seriously a waste of space, but I'll keep you on board, because we need the numbers. Ah, the meal now, Tom said, getting angry. Being 9 months pregnant, he kicked me in the belly. No, please don't, I cried. She attacked me and I fell to the floor with a tablet in my hand. Word for word I was thinking, I'm falling, to remember my belly. The impact in my fall sent pain throughout and across my body. After the initial scream, I couldn't even speak my pain, holding onto my stomach. A shout of anger flew from somewhere towards my husband, who kept kicking me, saying, "Hurry up." What awaits such a husband after this? My name is Emily, and I'm 29 years old. I live with my husband Tom, who is 3 years older than me. We were about to become a family of three, as I was in my 9th month of pregnancy. This was my first time having a baby, and somehow I had managed to reach a stable period while staring at a maternity magazine. That didn't mean I could relax. I spent every day exploring various things that I should and shouldn't do. I had only seen morning sickness on TV dramas, but when I experienced it, I realized how hard it could be. I realized how difficult childbirth is and how great mothers are. I was looking forward to the day when the baby would be born safely. However, one worry arose. It was about my husband, Tom. When I told Tom about my pregnancy, he celebrated with a triumphant pose, exclaiming, "Yes." I imagined a bright future filled with nonstop smiles between Tom, our soon-to-be-born baby, and me. I believed we could build a happy family together. However, as I grappled with the uncertainties of my first pregnancy, struggled with physical challenges, and was bedridden due to morning sickness, Tom, who had always been kind, began to change. "I'm home. Why are the lights off?" he asked. "Sorry, I've been feeling faint since this morning," I replied. "So you didn't do anything again?" he retorted. "Yes. That's why I tried to call you to either eat out or bring something home," I explained. I was on the move. "How could I take your call?" "What about my dinner?" he shouted, raising his voice and lashing out at things around him. I wanted to tell him there were some pre-made hamburgers and dumplings in the freezer, but if I did, would he, tired from his day, interpret it as me asking him to cook for himself? He'd probably scream at me. Tom's attitude suggested he didn't care about my health, especially when he was hungry. He clicked his tongue in annoyance, left the house without a word, and when he came back, he only brought food for himself. He flaunted his meal, didn't clean up, drank heavily, and went to sleep. After seeing Tom off to the bedroom, I managed to get up and try to eat whatever I could for the sake of our unborn baby. Sitting in the quiet living room, I felt a deep sadness, and tears began to flow. I couldn't grasp how the happy family life I had dreamed of just days ago was now on the brink of collapse. Tom and I were what people call office romance couples. We both worked at a major global company called Brown Company. Tom was in the marketing department, while I served as an executive assistant and handled accounting tasks. It was during one of these accounting tasks that Tom came to me with documents from his department, and that's when he took a particular interest in me. From that day on, he made his move on me. It was, in essence, love at first sight for Tom. At first, I wasn't interested, but his straightforward and earnest approach, combined with his visible strength in leading his subordinates, drew me to him. That's how our relationship started. He had been such a wonderful person, making me dream of a happy family since we started dating. If I stopped being lazy and properly took care of the household, would Tom be kind to me again? Deciding so, I adjusted my waking time to be earlier to accommodate my sluggishness and ensured to move with plenty of leeway. Although I had been allowed to work from home, I still had to work. Come on, I can do this. Actually, I didn't take maternity leave and was given a work-from-home job. Some of the secretarial tasks, such as schedule management and contacting managers, could be done remotely from home. Above all, I wanted to save as much as possible for our upcoming child. Thus, while maintaining my spirits and making adjustments, I somehow secured a living rhythm. I woke up earlier than Tom in the morning and prepared breakfast properly. I didn't prepare lunch since I usually use the company cafeteria. After sending Tom off, I was able to move at my own pace until he returned at night, resting my body while handling work and household chores. That was my daily routine. However, Tom did not change his attitude towards me and, on the contrary, became colder day by day. On the weekend, I was feeling unwell from the morning. Despite the alarm clock ringing, I couldn't get my body up and unintentionally overslept until Tom's waking time. Hey, wake up. Didn't I tell you I'm going out because I have a golf outing for entertaining clients today? You want me to go out without eating? He shouted. I'm sorry. It's just really tough, I replied weakly. With only those words coming out, he furiously kicked the bed and yelled at me, calling me useless. While shriveling up from his loud voice and impact, I uttered an unnecessary word. You always do everything right. It just so happens that today, I started to say, Huh, what are you getting defiant for? It's normal for a housewife to do it properly every day. He shouted, raising his voice and beginning to take his anger out on objects nearby. The sound of objects colliding and breaking resonated throughout the room. I'm sorry, please stop, I apologized, frightened, while covering my ears. From that point on, our conversations dwindled. I kept my distance when Tom seemed in a bad mood and apologized when he said something. Of course, I hadn't done anything wrong. Can I give birth while feeling this insecure? I considered going back to my parents' house for the birth, but seeing our baby might bring back the old Tom. He might be happy like when I told him about the pregnancy. I decided to gamble on that faint hope. After Tom had left and some time had passed, I staggered to get up, beginning to clean up the items he had angrily thrown onto the floor. Among them was a picture frame that held a photo of us snuggling together from when we were dating. Now mercilessly shattered, its glass surface broken, it seemed to tell me that there was no turning back, and tears streamed down my face. Then the doorbell rang. It was just past 10:30 when I checked the clock. Who could it be? Tom doesn't ring the doorbell. I wiped my tears and welcomed the unexpected visitor. Hi, who is it? I asked. Emily, it's Catherine, a friendly and gentle voice answered. I hurriedly opened the door to the unexpected visitor. Catherine, I said. I must have had a terrible look on my face. Catherine extended her plump hand and, seeing my face, said, Oh dear, what happened? What's wrong? You look pale. Catherine, I cried, tears soaping my cheeks at her kindness. Catherine is the wife of the president of Brown Company, where Tom and I work. From my grandfather, we've gotten to know her, and Catherine, who doesn't have children, dotes on me as if I were her own daughter. Before my pregnancy, I used to visit Catherine or the president's house to learn how to cook. Apparently, Catherine used to be a cooking class teacher in the past, and since I love cooking, she decided to teach me. This might be the first time Catherine has visited me. I explained everything to her about how Tom had changed. Seeing the state of the room, it seemed like Catherine realized this was no ordinary situation. Have you talked to my husband about Tom? She asked. No, this is a problem between the two of us, and I think it's my fault for not behaving the way Tom wants me to. I've never had a child, so I can't speak arrogantly, I replied. I didn't know that. It's cruel to treat you, Emily, who has been blessed with a precious life, that way, she said, getting angry on my behalf. If he behaves like that at home, I don't know what he's like at the company, she speculated. Catherine mentioned it might be a classic case of not feeding the fish you've caught. After listening to my whole story, she tidied up the scattered items and made me rice porridge with egg. Originally, she came to get me nutritious food, researching and making me side dishes and fruits that are gentle for pregnant women. Contact me immediately if anything happens, no matter what time it is. I'll rush over for you, Emily, she said. Thank you, Catherine, I replied. Catherine waved her hand, looking back many times as she left. Talking to Catherine relieved my mental anxiety, and with the food she brought, I gradually regained my strength. One day, after a night like that, Tom, who had been out drinking somewhere, did not wake up even at his usual time. I prepared meals during that time and decided to work remotely since I had received a call from the company. How much time had passed? The room door opened vigorously without a knock. I was having a casual conversation with someone from the company for the first time in a while after finishing an important meeting. Surprised, I looked towards the door to see Tom glaring at me with narrowed eyes. I'm trying to sleep here because I'm tired. Who are you talking to? You seem to be having a good time laughing, huh? Cheating on me? What a life you have, he said, aggressively approaching me. I'm divorcing a useless slave who doesn't do household chores, okay. Lol, he said, looking down on me, smirking from above. It seemed he misunderstood that I was cheating while talking to someone on the phone, which was just work. Okay, you're so shameless. Damn it, I'm keeping you around even though you're useless. Go prepare your master's meal at once, Tom said, furious with anger. He did something unthinkable. He kicked the leg of the chair I was sitting in with all his might. Unprepared for the sudden incident, I, along with the tablet I was holding, fell from the chair to the floor. On falling, I thought for a moment, but at least I could shield my stomach. However, the impact of the fall transmitted pain throughout my body. After my initial scream, I held my stomach desperately, unable to make a sound due to the pain. Don't mess with me, Tom said, kicking my stomach repeatedly. Shielding my stomach, I let out a voiceless plea, stop. Then from somewhere, a furious voice flew towards my husband, Tom. You bastard, what are you doing to Emily? The voice came from the tablet that had fallen with me. The fallen tablet happened to lean against the leg of the desk, showing me being kicked to the person connected remotely. What the? The voice sounded loud for a phone call. Tom, thinking that what I dropped was a phone, squatted down to peek towards the voice and was startled. There were eyes glaring at him like a demon. With pain becoming unbearable, I summoned my voice, please call an ambulance. Amidst a pain like I'd never felt before, a pain so severe it felt like I might pass out if I let my guard down, I managed to let out a sound. After that monkey show, now you're playing sick. Oh, Tom snickered through his nose, dismissing my plea. But then a scolding came from the tablet once again. You idiot. Do you think those anguished cries are fake? Call an ambulance immediately. Shut up. Who are you, old man? Tom cussed at the other person on the screen. But his face paled when he saw another person on the screen. I'll call the ambulance, said the W president displayed on the screen. With a familiar face of the president and an elderly man unknown to Tom Johnson, I heard everything you did. How foolish are you? Are you even human? No, this. Eyes. That's right. It's just physical affection. So sorry, President, Tom said, making an utterly unsightly excuse. He was yelled at again by the elderly man. You devil. Where does kicking a pregnant woman in the stomach repeatedly count as physical affection? Moreover, she is my precious granddaughter. Ha, who the hell are you, anyway? Tom asked. The one to stop Tom, who was raising his voice, was President White Johnson. Don't tell me you are unaware of the face of our company's chairman, Mr. John Brown. Or you don't know that Emily is the chairman's granddaughter. Tom couldn't believe his ears, and with good reason. He did not know that I am the granddaughter of John Brown, the chairman of Brown Company. My father, chasing his dreams since his student days, did not take over Brown Company, which was run by his father, my grandfather. After my grandfather, John, became chairman, he hardly showed his face at the company, so he was a somewhat hidden kind of presence. Even though my maiden name is Emily Brown, it probably went unnoticed. However, I had no intention of keeping it a secret indefinitely, and I had told Tom that I wanted him to meet my grandfather. Tom had agreed, saying he had to go and greet him, and I was planning to introduce him. As a surprise, when they met, neither Tom nor I could have dreamed that they would meet under circumstances where he was seen being violent to me. Tom Pei was standing stunned as President White delivered the cloudy grace. I must consider your punishment, President White began. Wait, please, President. I really meant it as physical affection, Tom stammered, just as the ambulance President White had arranged arrived almost simultaneously. Catherine, perhaps alerted by President White, also rushed to the scene. Step back. If something happens to Emily and the baby, no, even if nothing happens, I will not forgive you, she exclaimed, glaring suspiciously at Tom, then telling her husband, President White, and her grandfather on the tablet. I will accompany her. She tightly gripped my hand, showing a worried expression, and rode with me in the ambulance. Consciousness barely maintained began to fade upon being loaded into the ambulance. Catherine's voice called to me, Emily, Emily. I shrank away, independent of my darkening vision. How long have I been asleep? I opened my eyes, feeling blinded by light. Where am I? Slowly speaking, she looked around. Emily, oh thank goodness. I'm so sorry, Emily has woken up. The first thing that came into view was Catherine calling out while pressing the nurse call button. From the opposite side of Catherine, I heard my grandfather John's voice. Emily, oh, it's so good. The baby in your belly seems to be safe too. Grandpa, Catherine. My foggy head slowly began to work. At the same time, I remembered being pregnant and the terrible violence from my husband Tom. The baby is good. I felt relief at her grandfather's words and covered her face. Upon seeing this, her grandfather gently patted her head, saying, You must have been scared. You did so well. Overlapping with the early days of marriage with Tom, I said something I've been feeling to the two of them. Did I do something wrong? The voice that escaped my lips trembled. Hearing my words, Catherine, teary-eyed, said, Emily, it's not your fault, and grandfather said, I will never forgive the guy who put our precious Emily through this. Both defended me. At their words, don't think about anything and sleep now. I felt genuinely relieved that I didn't have to tough it out alone. Later, when I awoke, I was informed that I had slept for 3 full days and nights. After receiving a diagnosis that both the baby and I were without issue, I was hospitalized for a week to be safe. During that time, Tom never visited. Considering the baby that could have been in danger, even I began to feel a surge of anger towards Tom. During the hospitalization, Catherine, who had been visiting me every day, decided that returning home like this could result in Tom doing something unpredictable. Thanks to Catherine's generosity, until things were settled with Tom, I would be taken care of at her boss Whit's home. My parental home is far away, and considering the unstable situation that had continued, it was decided that returning there for the birth was not a good idea. Though I thought of going to grandfather's place, since my grandmother had passed away and only men were there, it was decided to go to Boss White's place where Catherine was. Besides, it was concluded that White's residence, which is closer to the city center, would be convenient even to discipline Tom. And that's how the plan was formed. Soon after starting to stay with Catherine, President White shared with me how Tom behaves at the company. Apparently, on the night I had told Catherine everything, she had asked the president to keep an eye on Tom's conduct. In response, the president had taken steps to have Tom's immediate superiors and colleagues report on his usual behavior. So it seemed like Emily didn't have to worry about anything. Catherine and I were speechless after hearing the president's story. Catherine's reaction was, "I knew it." It seems that Tom, who had not contacted me at all since I was taken away in an ambulance, thought that I had realized I had done something bad to him and ran away. Unbelievably, he had been spreading lies to his colleagues that I had cheated on him, and feeling guilty, distanced myself from him. According to one of Tom's peers, he always had a high pride, belittled those he deemed beneath him, and was absolutely horrific to his subordinates, ordering them around and insulting them. He said that he only approached me because I was the most popular female employee in the company at the time, and that if he could get me married, he would use me as a slave. I had been deceived by Tom. When I thought about it, I felt truly pathetic for having been so happy to have met someone kind. It's not just a case of not feeding a fish you've caught, is it? Catherine spoke with an extremely displeased expression. He's that kind of person, so I wonder if he's done something outside of the company too. That might be the case. We should investigate, Catherine said, exchanging glances with President White. She nodded, and after patting me on the shoulder and saying, "Wait here," headed towards the back of the room. When she returned in less than 5 minutes, she handed me a business card. "What's this?" I asked. "He's willing to listen carefully to your story, so why don't you consult him?" Catherine suggested. Dropping my eyes to the business card Catherine gave me, I recognized it as a lawyer's card. Upon asking, it turned out my grandfather gave it to Catherine to give to me, saying, "He's a skilled lawyer." Right now, my grandfather was dealing with the arrival of an old overseas trading partner coming to the States, and he had entrusted me to Catherine. The chairman was very worried. He said he couldn't be here for me during this time, but to stay strong and do my best, and he wanted that message conveyed. "Is that so? That's so like Grandpa," I muttered in my heart. My grandfather prioritized work and business associates over family matters and was very strict. Having been Grandpa's girl and watching him since I was little, I've always loved him despite occasionally perceiving him as cold during my student days due to his stern work demeanor. With this cheer from such a grandfather, I determined in my heart to settle things with Tom and firmly decide where to stand from now on. When I had the lawyer investigate various matters, one thing after another came out. I found out Tom was an atrocious person. First of all, it turned out that Tom, who made me out to be the worst wife ever who cheated on him and left him, had relationships with several women outside and inside the company, including the receptionist girl at the office. When President White conducted an internal investigation, suspicions also arose that he was embezzling company money, attempting to pin the crime on me, who was also in charge of accounting. Around the time the investigation was progressing to a certain extent, my smartphone rang. Of course, it was from Tom. "Hey, what the hell is going on?" Tom's angry voice, which I hadn't heard for so long, didn't scare me at all now. I answered calmly and coldly, "Is it correct to assume that you've received the registered mail we sent?" Why are you talking so formally? Oh, haven't you read it? I cannot forgive your actions towards our unborn baby. I sincerely wish to become a stranger to you and send it in order to sever our ties. What? Ha! You're the one who cheated and left without a word, aren't you? Tom's shouting was painful to the ears. Can you only shout? I replied. I can hear you perfectly fine without you raising your voice. Are you satisfied now, accusing me while you enjoy affairs with multiple people? With sarcasm, I folded on him that I knew it all. Wait, how do you? I continued without hesitation at the fled Tom. You really haven't read it, have you? I had a lawyer investigate everything. There's more than enough evidence. And also, I added, that while the mail from me is a personal claim for consolation money, his company's lawyer would likely contact him about his misconduct at work, and he should be prepared for that. Judging by his reaction, Tom must be sweating bullets and pale as a sheet. He frantically begins to read through the mail I sent, the rustling of paper audible. He probably felt credibility in the story, since I knew about the company affairs and about being contacted by a company lawyer. He tries to turn the tables. Wait, Emily, you don't want to break up with me now, do you? The baby needs a father, don't they? Don't even think about doing something as stupid as breaking up. Also, the company thing is something you did. I'll say it was a mistake. That makes everything okay, doesn't it? Such a self-serving, convenient argument. An outrageous claim. What did I do? Didn't I tell you there's more than enough evidence? Oh, right, my grandfather was quite angry as well, so you might be sued by him too. I have nothing more to talk to you about. If there's anything you need to say to me in the future, please go through my lawyer, okay? Saying so, I hung up the phone. Wait, don't hang up. I could hear his pathetic voice, but I didn't care. I never wanted to hear Tom's voice again, and even more so, I never wanted to see his face. With my important childbirth ahead, I decided to leave everything to the lawyer and prepare. In the end, here's what happened to Tom. After an investigation by the company, he was reported for his crude behavior towards colleagues, proven to have embezzled, was disciplinary dismissed, and sued for embezzlement, eventually being taken into custody by the police. Furthermore, although I didn't want to make a big deal about it for the sake of the baby being born, my grandfather was furious, and Tom was reported to the police for assault against me, his granddaughter, and was investigated for assault. Financially, he was slapped with various consolation payments and additional damage claims, ending up being billed an astonishing amount all at once. Tom would be on the other side of the fence for the time being, but after getting out, after that would surely be even more difficult. He asked for it. He needs to pay for what he has done. As for me, the divorce was finalized before Tom got involved with the police, and later I safely gave birth to a healthy baby girl. After consulting with my grandfather and Catherine and involving the lawyer, we decided to tell the baby that her father had passed away. My parents were shocked by the post-factum report, but they moved to Tokyo due to my childbirth, and we, my parents, my daughter, and I, began living together as a family of 4. My parents helped with child rearing, allowing me to formally return to work. When my daughter started elementary school, I was entrusted with a big responsibility at the company, succeeding Mr. White as president. Believe it or not, in Brown Company, under my grandfather's policy of not allowing the company's atmosphere to stagnate, presidents change upon reaching a certain age. I had been studying the company's know-how while working as a secretary and in accounting, being the next presidential candidate. If Tom had maintained his character from when we met, perhaps he might have become the president. Now I feel nothing but pity for Tom, who has gone astray in life. Rather, to prevent producing such an employee, I have to become a leader who can properly listen to everyone's voices and tighten my own resolve. I renewed my resolve to become a great person like my grandfather. My grandfather, too, retired from the position of chairman and now is a great-grandfather who dotes on my daughter. Despite the horrible things I experienced, I am sincerely happy now.